Have you seen Star Wars?
Another week has passed by, and another 3-episode arc of Andor has dropped. This one's covering the Gorman arc, I guess, and I think the next 3 episodes is going to have the massacre that we've been kind of teasing. It takes place about a year after the last 3 episodes, and this time, things change. One thing I'm liking about this season is that it's not explaining everything to you. For example, Cassian and Bix are in a relationship, and what I love about the series, aside from how stunning it looks, is how real these characters feel. Cassian and Bix already have a history, and clearly because of everything that she has gone through over the past few years, from the assault in the last 3 episodes, from the torture from the first season, losing Brazos, leaving Ferrix and all that stuff. There's so much trauma going on, and she doesn't trauma dump throughout the entire 3-episode arc, but she has to kind of deal with a lot of these things with her dreams. And Luthen tests both Bix and Cassian kind of behind their backs and talks to them and everything like that. And people were a little bit upset with how that arc ended at the end of the 6th episode, or the 3rd episode in this arc, with Bix killing the Imperial Doctor and torturing him right before she and Cassian blow up the entire place. I saw some people say that they felt like this was a little rushed or anything like that. This wasn't very well written. I think it was great. I feel like spending 3 episodes of her having to deal with all the trauma that she's been through, having these nightmares and everything like that, if they had dragged that out throughout the rest of the season, I think it would have been overdrawn. House of Dragons season 2 with Daemon and Harrenhal, and he's just tripping for like 8 episodes. That was overdrawn because it was just about one thing and him coming to peace with, his place in the world. Bix, you only had this for 3 episodes, and at the end of the 3 episodes, I don't think it felt rushed for her to kill the Doctor because Luthen kind of set that up for her and everything. He knew this would be what she needed to kind of keep going forward. So I really liked the way they did that. Another conversation people have had is the death of Cinta, because Cinta really didn't have a great character arc throughout the entire series, because what her role has been is not only she, Vel's love interest, girlfriend, whatever, she's just been there for the cause. She has been the ride or die kind of person where her only focus throughout this entire thing is taking down the Empire, is fighting the rebellion because the stormtroopers killed her parents as a kid. And I think her death at the end of this fits so well because it, in my opinion, was being foreshadowed throughout all 3 of these episodes. She wasn't such a big character, in my opinion, that her death meant a lot, but it meant a lot to Vel, and it was sad to see her go. And what was beautiful was that Cassian was warning Luthen that these Gorman people are not ready. When Vel and Cinta were doing the meetings with them, they're like, yo, you guys need to follow orders. No one needs to bring a blaster. Like, you have to listen to us. They don't, and look what ends up happening. And Vel, instead of making it personal, being like, look at me, you killed, like, the love of my life, she's like, look at me, you're going to carry this for the rest of your life. All right, you screwed up. You don't get to cry. You screw. All this stuff feels very human, very personal. And that's what I think really makes this show shine compared to a lot of other Star Wars projects, is that most Star Wars projects don't entirely focus on the characters where you feel that kind of connection to them and their personality. I can describe so many people's personality in the show. One of my favorite scenes was the bellhop that Cassian was talking to when he was pretending to be a designer. That 1 minute of conversation where Cassian's trying to probe him for information about Gorman, you learn everything about that guy. You learn that he saw the Gorman massacre when he was 12. His father died protecting him. He's lived there for all of his life, and he's been working at that building for however long it's been, and his wife is tired of him working there. I got all that information within 1 minute of a very small scene, and this is a very small character. That is good writing, and it baffles me that people are upset with these 3-episode arcs because they think that because something that happens that they don't like, now that's bad writing. No, it's not bad writing just because you don't like what happened. It's great writing because you saw it coming, in my opinion. It was good foreshadowing, and it had a good rhythm to it. Some people thought this 3-episode arc was a little slower and everything, and I get that. Cassian and Bix chilling and living their life on Coruscant. They're going to bodegas and everything like that. Stuff like that, I think, immerses you in the Star Wars universe. It gives you stakes with these characters. I like seeing them be a couple because it feels like a very healthy relationship, which we don't often see in Star Wars. I also love, speaking of healthy relationships, that scene with Deidre and Cyril. I love the dynamic that they've had going on throughout this entire season so far, but I'm not going to lie. It was kind of hot when she was like, turn off the lights. And he's like, I only have an hour? And she's like, turn off the lights. She's definitely the one running that relationship. And I have a kind of a weird feeling that Cyril's going to end up dying in the Gorman massacre. And that's why Deidre is like freaking out in that one part in the trailer. We saw her like pulling at her neck and everything like that. So I'm excited to see what the ISB ends up doing with Gorman. I know there's going to be that big massacre. We already had one with Tarkin apparently many years ago with 500 Gormans dying. This one I think is just going to be so chaotic that the entire planet is just in disarray. Another character that was featured in this, and I think is actually the weakest part of this 3-episode arc, and not in a bad way, is Saw Gerrera. That kid Wiltum or something like that. His dad died, in the first season. He's been attached with like Brazos and Bix and the last planet they were at before they had to move again. And now he's working for Saw Gerrera, teaching this guy how to do this machine thing. And every single aspect of Saw and this kid Will's dynamic, I think, worked. It just kind of felt out of rhythm with the rest of the show. It didn't seem to have an impact of what was happening with Luthen, Mon Mothma, Cassian, Bix, and all that stuff, the rebellion versus the Empire. It felt a little out of place. It wasn't bad. I just felt like it was paced oddly, but it doesn't take anything away from me. I like the way Saw, honestly, Forrest Whitaker's acting is just phenomenal. So every time he's on screen, he kind of steals all that attention. But the shocking moment where he kills the guy that Will was trying to teach, and then he gives Will this great speech at the end where he's like, dude, you are thinking about Luthen and all this stuff. That's all stuff for the future. We're going to die before the Republic comes back. We're here right now. So let's do this. Breathe in this poisonous air. Trip some balls with me a little bit, Stuff like that I think is very powerful in Star Wars. And also the way it looks is beautiful. When they shot the guy, and you seen that shot in the trailer where the guy's laying on the ground and the X-Wings are getting up, that's the resistance base from The Force Awakens. But that shot of them leaving and then going into space and then going to hyperspace, that is just simple Star Wars perfection. And you don't really get that in any other Star Wars show. So I love what they've done with the first 6 episodes of Andor. And I'm not trying to judge it episode by episode and rank it or rate it episode by episode. But if I was going to give this 3-episode arc a rating, I would give it a 9 out of 10. Last week, I gave the first 3 episodes, 1 through 3, a 9.5. This week, I think it's a 9. I don't think it's an 8 or anything like that, 8.5, even an 8.9. I don't want to cheat it like that because it's still great, but it just wasn't as great as the last 3, in my opinion. I felt a little bit more going on with the last 3. But as usual, what Andor is doing here is setting up the stakes for what happens. Aldhani, that arc that we had in the first season, some people thought that was kind of boring for the first couple episodes, but it built up to something great at the end, and it had ramifications for what happened throughout the rest of the series. So I think people will look back at these 3-episode arcs with a little bit more graciousness as the series goes on and eventually comes to an end. I'm very sad that we're already halfway done with the second season and that Andor is basically going to be over in about 2 weeks, and we'll probably never get anything like Andor again in the future. And for now, that sucks, but it might be okay in the end, because if they focus on doing a show like this instead of doing 10 different shows at once, I think Star Wars can have a future with the Disney Plus platform and everything like that. But leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know, what did you think about this 3-episode arc, episodes 4, 5, and 6 for Andor season 2? Did you like it? Did you not? What surprised you about it? And what do you think is going to happen with a lot of this stuff going forward? Luthen and Kayla and Mon Mothma. I mean, there's so many things that are going on in this series, even with like Director Krennic and all that stuff, that there's just countless layers in the show and so many people you have to keep up. One of the small things I haven't seen anyone really talk about is Deidre's assistant from the first season is now taking over her job now, and he's moved up through the ranks and everything, and he's kind of being a little standoffish with her. He's like, no, like, I'm not doing this for the glory because you would have done it for the glory. I'm doing this because this is the job. I love all of that. I love that even Lonnie dealing with Luthen and the other girl and all that stuff, like that show really just knows how to set the stakes with just a few characters and make all these characters feel real. One thing I can tell you right now with the characters in Andor is that you could describe the personality to almost every single one of them. And I think that is beautiful because you haven't been able to do that with a lot of Star Wars shows and movies in the past. But once again, leave your rating in the comment section below. Leave a like if you like this video. Subscribe for more Star Wars content in the future. I'll see you all next time, my friends, and may the Force be with you always.